All right, so hopefully you had some good relaxing time during spring break. This week we are transitioning into inequalities. So just a short video here before I explain what your practice will be this week. So as you remember, we were previously working on equations, so something that looked like this, where we distributed, solved for x, and got that answer, okay? We are going to be transitioning into inequalities, so notice it looks exactly the same except for this symbol right here now says less than. So when I go ahead and distribute and solve, now there's a lot of possibilities for x being my answer. So over here on equations, there was one answer, okay? But when we're working with inequalities, there are many answers. Okay, now we're not going to be solving this week. I just want to talk a little bit about graphing and the different symbols. So there'll be a short video here. So I want you for this week to be able to write, graph, and identify the solution set to inequalities. So here, if you take a look at this, these are the 4 different symbols that you may see in an inequality. Okay, so the first one there, that is the less than symbol. Okay, so if we were graphing our solution set, that would be an open circle. Okay, the next one is less than or equal to, because it has that extra line there. Okay, so when we graph that, we would put a circle and we would fill it in because it can equal the number that it would say. Okay, our next symbol here is greater than. So it has to be greater than that number. That would be an open circle because it cannot include that number. It has to be greater than that. And the last one there is greater than or equal to, since it has that extra line. So when we graph that, we'd put a circle and fill it in because it can equal that number that we're talking about. Okay. So just want to go over a few of these here. I'm not going to do all of these, but just to kind of remind you what that looks like here. So when I have x is greater than 4, on a graph I would just put the number 4. It would be an open circle. It cannot equal that, so I don't fill it in, but then the numbers greater than 4 on the number line are to the right towards the positive. So that would be how I would graph that. Okay, our next one, x is less than or equal to 10. I would put a 10. Okay, when I put my circle, I am going to fill it in because it can equal 10. And that says less than. It points to the left. So those are the lower numbers. So that would be, so the left there, I would shade those numbers. Okay, now for this next one, notice it's written backwards. I'm going to use, you have to like pretend like it's a pancake and flip every single thing over. When you flip a pancake, you flip it all. Okay. So I'm going to change my x to be on the left. I'm going to flip that symbol around so that it is pointing towards the x, and then put the 3. So now that is like the others. So a lot of you will shade your number line in the direction that that symbol is pointing. You can only do that when it's written like these first two. You cannot do that with this because it is written backwards. So now I can actually do that because I flipped everything around. Okay, so to graph x is less than 3, I'm going to put a 3, an open circle. It's not equal to, so I leave it open. And then that is pointing to the left, less than, so the numbers less than 3 are to the left. Okay, again with my next one, it is written backwards, so I want to flip every single thing around. So put the x here, flip that so that the open part is towards the left, and then write -7. So now I can look at which way that symbol is pointing, and it is pointing to the right. So when I put my number on my number line, -7, it is greater than or equal to, so I'm going to put a circle, fill it in because it's equal to 7, and then now I can shade the way that it is pointing, which is to the right. Okay. All right, taking a look at a little bit of the opposite here. So on these next two, they give me the graph. Okay, and I want to write the inequality. So here on this first graph that they give me, I notice the circle is at 1, so I'm going to have a 1. Okay, I'm going to use x all the time as my variable. And it is shaded to the left of 1, which is the less than, and it is an open circle, so x is less than 1. Okay, the next graph, I notice I'm going to use x. My number is 0. It is a circle filled in, so it can equal that, and it is shaded to the right. So I want to point my symbol to the right, so greater than or equal to. Okay. So now that we have covered those, what I would like you to do is go to Canvas, and there is a short quiz for you to work on this graphing piece. So you will, on some of them, you will have a graph, and you will have to pick which inequality is the correct inequality. And on some of them, you are given the inequality, and you have to select the correct graph. It is all multiple choice. Please look at the graphs carefully, remembering which way it should be shaded and which should have an open circle or which should have a filled in circle. If you have any questions, please email me. And if you are still struggling, we can set up a time to conference through Canvas so that we can talk about something. Just let me know. Thanks.